Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Summerslam review. The second time we've come at you this month. It's your cup runneth over.
Oh, a wealth of wrestling content
It is.
at your fingertips.
Yeah, a pretty good weekend of wrestling. The AEW show that was bumped to Saturday was good. The Takeover show was good, and SummerSlam was even good. So, no
Yeah.
no bad shows. They were bad matches,
Yes.
but no bad shows overall. We'll start. We're not reviewing the AEW show. I just want to throw that out there. Except we will give lip service to the fact that Brody Lee, let's just call a spade, squashed Cody for the TNT title in all of 3 minutes. So
Cody once again puts himself under.
Yeah. Well, he was putting himself over. There were a lot of people, myself kind of included, more so because of how he was winning than the fact that he was just winning during his open challenge. But there are people already starting the lol Cody wins narrative. And he did only, prior to this, lose only 2 matches in the entirety of the year. But he built himself up so they could put Brody Lee over strong and, by extension, try to get everyone to take the Dark Order seriously. We'll see how well that works. Remain unconvinced. But we will begin with the shows as they aired, and starting with NXT Takeover 30.
Mm-hmm.
And while not a bad show by any means, I would say this is probably the weakest of the 30 takeovers that they have done. I can't remember a takeover that was so merely whelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like NXT has suffered the most from the changes in the format to the show.
Yeah, the crowd is definitely a big part of these takeover shows, as much as the matches are. Although I will challenge the notion that in front of a crowd, this show would have been better than any of the other shows. I just think the lineup of matches was weaker.
Well,
and some of them didn't deliver.
I guess I state that not just in the crowd section, but I feel like as economic conditions change, they're gonna put more focus on their larger 2 shows.
Yeah, that's
whatever sort of effects come off of that,
Yeah.
I don't know. For whatever reason, it just hasn't. It's been a different feel.
Yeah, they were at the PC though. They weren't in the Thunderdome. They were at Full Sail.
Mm-hmm.
Which
by the way, thanks guys. You finally took my idea. Wasn't it a great idea, guys?
There's some kinks they're working out with it, but yeah, wasn't bad. So we began with there was a pre-show match. It was Breezango versus Oni Lorcan, Danny Burch, and Legado del Fantasma, sans Mr. Escobar, for a number 1 contendership to Imperium's NXT Tag Team titles. Breezango won, somewhat surprisingly. I would have thought Lorcan and Burch, but they're not going to win the tag titles, I don't think. So
isn't that just the story of their life?
Yeah, I would have thought that they'd do better, but no, they didn't. The show proper began with Finn Balor versus Timothy Thatcher. This was a okay match. I would stop short of calling it a good or great match. They did not work particularly well together. Finn Balor did not do a great job of selling his leg, which is a common problem in NXT. But when the whole match pretty much is built around working the leg, and you just say, fuck it, I'm going to do all my leg-based moves, anyway, it kind of doesn't work, especially with a guy like Thatcher whose style is like, I'm gonna wear you down, I'm gonna pick
Right.
apart your body part, and kind of need to
Does not
remember.
work with a dynamic player like Finn.
I think it could, but I don't know. The way they structured this match was just weird, and Balor won, which I don't know if I agree with that. They've been really pushing Timothy Thatcher, trying to get him over as a killer. He sent Matt Riddle away in their fight pit match, and I think, well, now the situation becomes unclear because of what happened in the aftermath of the show. But watching this match, I thought that Finn Balor should probably be on his way back to the main roster. It's been a year, and he's kind of languishing in the mid card right now. He doesn't have a whole lot to do in NXT, so I figured he probably would be on his way back to SmackDown. So why not have Thatcher win here and send him away, so you can say he, put out Matt Riddle, he put out Finn Balor. Watch out for this guy.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think he's hurt too much by the loss. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
it seems strange.
Push him all the way up to the big show, and then let him down. Yeah.
But,
Oh well. More
typically,
chances.
typically they have a plan for these guys, so I will let it play out. Then we had the best match on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe best match of the weekend. I don't know. It had some competition. There were some pretty good matches at SummerSlam. But this
Really,
was.
you can never go wrong with an NXT ladder match.
I do love me some ladder matches, and the NXT ladder matches have been traditionally great. This was only a 5-man match. I don't know if they thought better of doing 6 because of COVID concerns. But they pointed it out on the show, too, that the North American title was originally awarded in a 6-man ladder match. And I was unclear as to why they did not have 6 men in this match. But they went with 5. It was Damian Priest, Bronson Reed, Cameron Grimes, Johnny Gargano, and the now suddenly very controversial Velveteen Dream.
Oh,
It's the same, like, stuff with
is
the...
it developed?
It hasn't really developed, but everyone's mad that he just like came back in and they didn't. I guess, even though they have no idea if he was disciplined or not, they don't feel he was disciplined enough. But my stance on that is he didn't do anything illegal. Was it a little creepy? Sure, but like, it's not like he was so much older than these kids. You got to remember, Velveteen Dream's like 23 or 24 or something like that. He's a pretty young man himself, but that's a whole nother can of worms that I don't really want to open right now.
Just cancel him. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah, so this match was a car crash and a half. It was crazy. They did some very... I've seen a good 90% of ladder matches in WWE history. And they pulled out some stuff that I had never seen before. So kudos to them for some innovative ladder spots. One in particular is when Dream and I think it was Priest had ladders and Cameron Grimes was in the middle of them and they were like pulling them apart and then they smushed them together. I'd never seen that before. Speaking of Cameron Grimes, he took a hell of a bump when Johnny Gargano gave him a sunset flip powerbomb, supposedly to go through the ladder, but their aim was a little off, and he just clipped the ladder. And when I saw that, I immediately had flashbacks to Shawn Michaels in that casket, and I was like, oh, God, I hope he's okay. But he finished the match, and I didn't hear anything about him being hurt, so
Yeah.
dodged a bullet there.
They definitely would have said something, considering what else happened. But yeah.
Other notable spots is when Bronson Reed did a dive onto Johnny Gargano with Candice LeRae on his back. Um, and
That was a good one.
yeah, they teased a few people. I mean, they teased pretty much everyone winning at one point, but they heavily teased Cameron Grimes and Velveteen Dream. But it was Damian Priest who emerged victorious. I think that's a good move.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of Damian Priest. I think he's a good choice. He can feud realistically with anyone else who was in this match for the title in the future. Because he's not really. I guess he's a babyface now, but he's not like solidly. He's kind of still in an in-between state, more ambiguous. So if he wrestled Bronson Reed, it really wouldn't be too
Hmm. He's a
strange.
contender. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I
He's
think
playing the field.
he can have a lot of good matches with a lot of people. Speaking of people, Pat McAfee and Adam
Pat
Cole
McAfee.
wrestled the match. I like Pat McAfee's podcast. I listen to it regularly. I think he is a pretty funny guy, and NFL athlete, former like nationally ranked soccer player too. So he's got a pedigree, and I thought to myself, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in there and acquits himself well. But I was not quite expecting the level of work that we got here in this match. He opened my eye. I think with if it's something he wants to do with some more training, I think he can be a good special attraction. He for his debut match. Uh, I remember when D'Angelo Williams, also a former NFL player, debuted in Impact. Everyone like professed him as the second coming of Frank A. Gotch because he didn't embarrass himself. And this was on that level. He did some crazy things in this match. Um, Nothing too crazy though. They kept it basic for the most part, but the highlights from the Pat McAfee end include doing a diving senton onto the Undisputed Era and his football buddies,
Nice.
doing a backflip off the top rope, and then running and leaping to said top rope to deliver a superplex, and at the finish, taking the Panama Sunrise. I
That's
did not expect that.
yeah. Yeah. Dude's dude's got the sports, and he may have the entertainment.
He's
Which
yeah.
is kind of a hard thing. He's gone where Shaq couldn't.
Well, he is quite a bit younger than Shaq. I think he's in his maybe his mid 30s. Let's see. Pat McAfee is
He
33.
hasn't had nearly as much Papa John's.
Yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, he was training pretty hard for this match, and he acquitted himself very well. I was very impressed. He didn't embarrass himself. I think it's still, even though he is a lot bigger, and even though, yes, he is a professional athlete um, in a very physical sport, the fact that Adam Cole, the longest reigning NXT champion of all time, had to sell as much as he did for Pat McAfee was a little much. I mean, you can totally say that, oh, he underestimated him. Sure. Uh,
Right.
but still, this is Adam Cole, who beat pretty much everyone on the roster except for Keith Lee. So, by the transitive property, you're putting Pat McAfee up towards the top of the card here. But the match was great. Apparently, they didn't rehearse it at all. They just went in there and did what
That's
they
wild.
knew they could do, and it turned out pretty damn good. The right outcome. Adam Cole should have won this match. Any other outcome was unacceptable, but a clean
Yeah.
victory for Adam Cole. But yeah, Pat McAfee looked very impressive, and this ended up being probably the second best match on the card, which I would not have called uh, prior.
Yeah. When it she was yeah, even looking at it now on the sheet, I just it baffles the mind just a smidge. You're just like, oh, Adam Cole, Pat McAfee in the middle of the card.
Yeah.
What's what is this? What are you showing to me? What is this like? It's like the mystery flavor like Dum Dum. This is a mystery flavor Dum Dum of wrestling. Is this match?
But a good mystery flavor. You got a good one. You got like a cotton
Yes.
candy, not like a butterscotch or
Or some ungodly mix of them.
yeah. That led to the women's championship match: Io Shirai versus Dakota Kai, accompanied by Raquel Gonzalez. There was a time on this show where I was continually pushing for Dakota Kai to be the one to defeat
Yeah.
Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship, but that was largely because of the story. This was inarguably the biggest singles match of her career, and I don't want to say she came out flat and underwhelmed, but this was not
I
to the
I get
level.
what you're saying.
This
Yeah.
was not to the level of the other title matches Io has had in her run here.
I think that's just a Dakota Kai thing where it's a lot of there's a lot of potential. There always feels like there's a lot of potential, and they don't she doesn't flub it. It's just like it's 90%. It's not 100.
She's missing that third gear. Like when it comes time, you've built the match up and it's time to like go into your false finishes and your big high spots. She doesn't. I don't know if she doesn't have the move set or what the issue is, but she doesn't. The matches peak at a lower level than with some of the other girls, and I'm a big fan of Dakota Kai. I think she's like Peter said. I think she's got a lot of potential. I mean, it's not like she's been doing this for a short amount of time. She came in with a fair amount of experience. Uh, the heel turn. I'm still not sold on her as a heel. I think she tries a little too hard to make the mean faces, and it takes me out of it a little bit. Um, but they pushed her into a title match. This was I I don't know. I don't think she was ready. I was wrong.
I, was, I regret it all. Pull it back.
Yeah.
But
So
she's missing Nikki Cross,
yeah.
her spirit guide.
Yeah. Yeah, they did some nothing really stands out in my mind about this match. It was well worked. They gave him 17 minutes. I think that was about 5 too many.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the middle of this match was a little slow. Uh, Shirai won, and after the match, Raquel Gonzalez went in to muck things up, but was chased off, sort of, by Rhea Ripley, who was eyeing that NXT title. So I think we're going to get Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez on television at some point in the next few weeks here. And then probably Io versus Rhea for the title at the next Takeover, which would be probably Survivor Series weekend.
Sounds right. Makes sense.
So in November. And that's an interesting one because I think Rhea Ripley could be main roster bound. She's really cooled off since her peak at the end of last year, and a lot of that has to do with the COVID nonsense. But
Right.
they didn't do her any favors by having her lose to Charlotte.
Yeah.
Especially considering that visa issue was not accurate. She never had to leave the country, so there was no real reason to put the belt on Charlotte. And the ratings definitely showed that Charlotte Flair is not the draw they think she is.
No. No, she isn't.
That was a rough period of time where she was on every fucking show.
Holy shit. Yeah. Like, she's a good wrestler. Sure.
that's about it. And then we had the main event. And no disrespect to either man, but this was probably the worst main event in the history of Takeover.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they pushed Karrion Kross a little too quickly to this spot. Um, I'm not sold on the act yet. I think the entrance is a little overboard. I think it it rides the line between being cool and being cheesy, and then it pushes right over that line. And I don't know if it's just the character he's playing, but I haven't been super impressed with his work in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as familiar with his career and Impact as Killer Cross as perhaps I should be, but the few matches he's had here, I mean, they've been basically squashed. He basically squashed Ciampa, and he basically squashed Dijakovic. So this was the first match he was going to go in there and, in theory at least, have a back and forth competitive match, and they kind of laid an egg. This was pretty
Not the
boring.
good kind of egg that the Undertaker comes out of.
Gobbledygook. The Eggman. I'm going to be Eggman. Yeah, this was a Haas fight that wasn't particularly hard hitting, and it was very slow. Karrion Kross is no Dijakovic. He can't go in there and have a fast match like you would expect from a Keith Lee match. They kind of plodded along. Lee sold a lot. He hit the Sayato suplex, which just doesn't... That's not a very impressive finish. Or signature move, even. And so what Peter and I were alluding to throughout this is that Karrion Kross separated his shoulder somewhere in the match. I think it happened when he did a spot where he came off the ropes and Lee came off the ropes and they kind of collided. After he went down there, he immediately started favoring his shoulder. I'm pretty sure that's where it happened. I don't think it happened on the Spirit Bomb. So perhaps that was part of the reason the match was the way it was. But even so, they had a good half of the match already under wraps there. And without a crowd to kind of boost this along, this really just died a death. And perhaps because of the injury, the finish kind of came out of nowhere. It was the Doomsday Sayato suplex off of the second rope. And Karrion Kross is the winner. And we know now, after NXT having aired yesterday, that he is no longer the champion. He vacated the belt. And so it will be decided in the first ever, to my knowledge, 60-minute Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match. And the participants in that match will be Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole, and Finn Balor. Now, who makes most sense to win that match? I think we can eliminate Adam Cole. He just had a very lengthy run with the belt, and I suspect that they gotta be. There's nothing left for them to do in NXT. He and the Undisputed Era are either set to break up and feud or get moved to the main roster. So I think we can take him out of the picture. I don't think they should put the belt back on a heel because, the last babyface... Keith Lee was a babyface. His reign lasted all of 6 weeks. Johnny Gargano was the last babyface before him to have it, and his reign lasted like 4 weeks. So you had Adam Cole's 300-something day title reign as a heel, and then you had before him Tommaso Ciampa's 290-something day reign as a heel. It's been a lot of heels. It's been very heel heavy. recently. So I think you should put it on a babyface, which would leave Ciampa or Balor. And I think since Ciampa just had a pretty long reign himself, and he's feuded with a lot of the major players already,
Mm-hmm.
that maybe it makes most sense to put it on Balor.
You put it on Balor, and then you have, even the first thing out of the gate. For instance, he could have a rematch with Thatcher. Thatcher could come back. It's like, I'm
Yes.
coming back for the belt now.
Yeah, you could have a
Boom.
rematch with Thatcher. You know, he's worked a little bit with a lot of people, but they're fresher matchups. Champa and Gargano have been at the top of the card, and Cole too have been at the top of the card for like 3 years now. They've worked with
Mm-hmm.
mostly everyone. Balor at least, many times too. Balor at least has some fresher matchups in the tank. Now I don't think you keep the belt on him very long. I don't know how long Cross is going to be out.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's sort of the dichotomy of this match too, is putting it on the pillars and however long they hold them, and it's like a rehash. But then again, for this match, you got to put in your
yeah,
four
this is the
workhorses.
biggest match they could possibly do. And honestly, when you think about how everyone's been booked, I mean, Champa just came back after a bad loss, so maybe he's a little fringe. But the other one, people like those are the guys most deserving of a title opportunity. So we'll see how that goes. I'm looking forward to that match. I think that ought to be fantastic.
Yeah, I have no doubt they'll put it on for you.
I hope they can get USA to give him limited commercial interruptions because I want to see all
Yes.
60 minutes of that fucking match. All right, so on to SummerSlam, which I think for the first time in either in a long time or in the history of us doing this show, the main roster pay per view, at least in my opinion, better than the Takeover.
On the whole, I think it acquitted itself pretty fairly.
Yeah, there were some stinkers on this card. There were some very average matches,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a lot of good stuff. And the show, mercifully, this is one positive you can say about the COVID era of wrestling. The shows have been palatably long. They have not overstayed their welcome. This show started at 7, wrapped up a little after 10. It was perfect. I could watch the whole thing, get to bed on time, get to work in the morning. It was
Mm-hmm.
keep them 3 hours, please.
And I feel like even in the way they formatted it too,
Yeah,
because
paced very well.
NXT is also this like a similar length. They have 5 matches, but these guys there are 7 matches on this main card.
Yeah,
So
seven
more
to
people, more
eight
time.
is the ideal number of matches for your pay per view, and they did that from like the beginning of their pay per view history all the way through until like 2015, where they decided let's just get everyone on the card and have 16 match pay per views where no one has any time and the matches don't matter. Uh, but maybe now, fingers crossed, I can see this going right out the window once everyone starts showing back up when the pandemic
Oh,
restrictions
sure.
loosen. But hopefully they're pivoting to 8 match card pay per views, which is again the ideal number for your 3 hour pay per view.
Hmm. And
So
of course,
yeah,
they had this in the Thunderdome.
the Thunderdome. Why don't you talk about
Thunder.
the Thunderdome, Peter?
So, my perfect idea is the implementation of my dream. Beamed through a set of continentally linked XFL uprights right into the writer's brains. Um, it is the Coliseum of like video chat walls, which like it gives you the crowd, it gives you the noise, and it gives you the control. I feel like if this had to go by Vince, he would be grandpa confused. He'd be grandpa tech support until you told him, "Hey Vince, do you know that you can turn a knob and it'll just turn down all the booze when your baby comes out and he starts getting booed? You can just turn it down. You don't have to hire security. You hire a moderator, and you kick someone out, and then you fill that screen with somebody else, and you always have a full house no matter what."
Yeah. So yeah, it's a bunch of they did stadium style too. So the
Mm-hmm.
stadium leveling of these LED video boards for the probably the world's largest Zoom call.
Yeah,
Um,
it's up
lots
there.
of
It's up there
people.
for sure.
They, of course, immediately there were assholes putting inappropriate things in their Zoom calls or their video feeds and all that. And there was a noticeable lag between when
Yeah.
something would happen in the ring and when the people would react, which was kind of a disconnect. But really, the faces just needed to be there, and it felt a little bit better. They
Mm-hmm.
piped in cheers and boos ripped straight from WWE 2K20, um, which, you know, sometimes it worked, other times it just did not.
Much like WWE 2K20.
I mean, more often than not, 2K20 didn't work. I've never seen a wrestling video game mocked so mercilessly by even mainstream game journalists. Like,
I don't know
it
what
is an
they just caught the
achievement
bug.
of bad.
Yeah.
Uh, but anyway, this show was not an achievement of bad. This was actually probably the best main roster pay per view all year. So the pre-show match was Apollo Crews versus MVP. I did not watch this, but I have it on good authority that this was a Raw match.
Fair enough.
The show proper kicked off with Bayley versus Asuka. Good match as you would expect from the two women involved. The finish came when Asuka went for a hip attack on Bayley, who stepped out of the way, and Sasha took the bullet and allowed Bayley to roll up Asuka to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. So they were setting it up. They had Kayla Braxton interviewing them later in the show, stirring shit up between them. They were setting up, will Bayley return the favor for Sasha Banks? And when we talk about that match, we'll get into whether or not she did and why what happened, I don't think, is really logically going to lead to the storyline thread that it's going to lead to. But we have some other matches to talk about in between then, such as the Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza. Oh my God, these two, Andrade and Angel Garza, what have they done to you? Remember when Angel Garza was this really hot up-and-coming act in NXT and they just plunked him on the main roster?
You replace that with so many names. How many names can we fucking spin the Rolodex on?
Yeah, but he never even got to like reach his peak in NXT. They called him up. Where him and Austin Theory, they were like there for a cup of coffee.
So weird.
Yeah, they could really use an Austin Theory and an Angel Garza down in NXT right now to bolster some of these mid-card and top-card positions. But anyway, they've been reduced to feuding with the Street Profits, and not to disrespect the Street Profits, but they have been.
Montez has the sauce. He is the inheritor of the sauce.
He's got
If ever there was one.
the sauce, and they want the smoke. I don't know if they have it yet. We're unclear on that. But they've been positioned as kind of a comedy act for a long time on the main roster, and they didn't really give them a whole lot of time to have much of a match here. They got a little less than 8 minutes total. It was a fine match, but it's not exactly a pay-per-view quality tag team match. And the heels lost when Zelina got bumped off the apron, and Andrade went to attend to her, leaving Angel Garza all by his lonesome. So that split is going to happen and they're gonna feud, and at the very least, you'll get good matches out of that if they give them time, at least.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
You never know with these things.
that's very true. Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. Credit to these women for even coming out there after what happened to them and the lead up to this happened. Did you not hear?
No, I don't think it did.
So I won't get into the gory details, but a deranged fan attempted to kidnap Sonya Deville at her home.
Yes, okay. It's all coming back, yep.
And was not successful, and he is currently in custody pending trial, and I hope they throw the book at the guy. Some people are just not fit to live in society. So the stipulation changed from being a hair match most of the build up to this to being a loser leaves WWE match on SmackDown. And given the finish, I'd say that was a excuse to give Sonya Deville some time off to get her head right after what I'm sure was a very traumatic experience.
Mm-hmm.
And
sort out things on multiple fronts.
Yeah. And this was a match that was built up to be a nasty grudge match. And I mean, they kind of worked it like that, but I don't think this match was very good. It was not.
It's not memorable.
It was not the worst match on the card. It's memorable for the wrong reasons. It's memorable for the fact that they brought out a table and no one went through it. That's like, you broke the cardinal rule.
Holy shit.
You set up the table, you use the table. And no, sliding chairs across the table does not count as using the table.
Well, I mean, you even got it there. Set up the table. They had trouble with that.
Yes, they had some trouble with that. Watching, I don't remember if it was Sonya or Mandy,
Mandy.
Struggle for a long time to set this table upright.
Yeah, gotta get under it, man. Gotta lift it from under.
Yeah, Mandy Rose is not very good. She impressed me when they did the tag team. Well, that team impressed me when they did the tag team elimination chamber for the women's belts. But this was probably, at least to my recollection, the highest profile singles match that either, Mandy for sure. Sonya had that big match against Ruby Riott in NXT. That was pretty good. But yeah, Mandy came out and she won, but she's not terrible, but it looks like she's moving at 3/4 speed.
You made me think of her caterpillar.
Oh god!
After she won, I forgot, but then it came back in a flood because it just slipped my mind. The fucking Dozovich angle.
Yeah.
Which itself sounds like a political talk show.
You know what kind of
Dozovich angle?
You know what came back in a flood to me was that Otis is Mr. Money in the Bank.
Oh my god, that's true.
And yeah, I was fucking at the end of the show. I'm like, dude, Otis, get out here! Now's your chance.
Go.
Yeah, he's not winning the belt. That I don't know. Money in the Bank this year was just fakakta. But yeah, Mandy won after hitting about 4 knee strikes and her implant buster. Mm-hmm. It's not called. I think it's called the Rose Garden or something stupid like that. But it's the implant buster.
That almost sounds like a cool signature move if you don't know what it means.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like, a lot implant DDTs. Like implant is a prefix used on a lot of moves, and buster is a suffix used on a lot of moves. So it sounds like it could be a move and not a reference to slamming someone down so their fake tits pop. um,
Oh, you know whose fake tits didn't pop during our upcoming segment? Dom
who's that?
Mysterio.
Dom Mysterio. Another debuting wrestler on this weekend, and he can go. He needs a little more polish. I think he could have done well to have some time in NXT, but
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, he's got stuff going on. He's in a big, high-profile match. Put him in NXT. Send him back down now. Have him go through. He needs a training arc.
yeah, yeah, especially considering the outcome of this match where he came up a little short. But yeah, Dominic Mysterio, he's pretty good already, which should come as no great shock, seeing as how he is Rey Mysterio's son and was trained by Lance Storm, who has produced many great wrestlers from his Storm Wrestling Academy up in Ontario, I believe. Maybe Winnipeg, I don't know. But, I mean, that's been shut down. I don't know if he's reopened it since he got fired from WWE or has plans to reopen it, but when he got hired as an agent, he shut it down. But this match was great. Told a really good story. And I think Seth Rollins was a great choice for Dominic's first match here. You know, sometimes you forget because of all the stupid shit he says on Twitter that makes you just go, dude, what the fuck are you doing with your life? But Seth Rollins is a good professional wrestler.
I don't have a Twitter, so I don't even have to worry about that. I just felt there's an electricity in this match.
Yeah. It was palpable. It was a big fight feel. Kind of felt. I mean, it was just a great story built up to this. Like as stupid, and I make no mistake, the fucking eye for an eye match was so fucking stupid. As stupid as that match was, it was a building block for a story that came together beautifully in this match. And you don't see matches like this built around the story as much anymore, and I think that's a disservice. But yeah, they went out there and they had a real good street fight. They called back to all the other parts of the angle that they'd done prior. They had Seth in there. Yeah, they had Seth in there out wrestling Dominic quite convincingly at the beginning because this is Dominic's first match and Seth is a seasoned pro. So he should be getting the better of the rookie here. And then they had Dominic show fire and fight and heart. And the heels did dirty heel things that would make you hate them. And they kind of won in an underhanded way. And, it just worked. Everything worked. Dom looked pretty good. He needs to develop, I think, a little more of a move set. He's pretty basic. I don't think he did more than 4 or 5 moves. There was an arm drag, a frog splash, a 619, and a Hurricane Rana, I think.
He's a tabula rasa at this point.
Yeah, he's, like I said, he's very impressive for his first match. Like, you don't need to do a ton of moves. But when it came time to do all the high spots, they had to use a lot of smoke and mirrors to kind of create and generate excitement. Oh, wait, there is one move. He did a fucking White Russian leg sweep.
Oh, yeah.
Papa Sandman would be proud. He grabbed a kendo stick and did a Russian leg sweep through a table. And, of course, he paid tribute to his real father, Eddie Guerrero, with the frog splash. It's crazy that 15 years ago, at this very event, Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero had a ladder match for the custody of Dominic.
Oh my god. It's a legacy. He's He's got the Samurai Jack backstory.
Yeah, this match was great. I think it was. I wouldn't say it's the best match on the show. I think there were two matches better than it, but it was really good. And they had the tag match on Raw. I think Rollins and Murphy versus Ray and Dominic. I didn't read the Raw results, so I don't know how that went. But I assume that the babyfaces won that one. But then we had what many people would say was the best match on the show. I'm torn. I think I would give the slight edge to McIntyre and Orton. But this was a damn good match. Asuka and Sasha Banks here had themselves hell of a match. This is definitely the best women's match of the year. I think there can be no argument about that. Because Baszler and Ripley happened last year. But yeah, this was really good. Any way you slice it, they went in there, they worked their butts off, and paying back the beginning. Will Bayley return the favor? She did, but they're gonna try to play it off like she didn't. So pretty much they did a rerun of the spot in the previous match. The only difference was when Asuka went for the hip attack, Bayley moved out of the way. Now, they're going to try to spin this like this was somehow worse than her taking the move. But Asuka was distracted longer by her missing and having to do the back fist. And Sasha hit the backstabber, put the bank statement on, and then because Asuka out-wrestled her, she turned the bank statement into the Asuka lock, and Bayley wasn't there because she had already run interference. But the fact of the matter is, even if she had taken the fucking move, the hip attack, she still would have been on the outside, not ready to fucking save Sasha again. Sasha lost because Sasha was not as good as Asuka on that night. Bayley did everything right, but they're going to play it off like, oh, Bayley, you aren't a team player. You didn't pay me back the favor. She did. She got involved. But yeah, they're dropping those tag team titles at Payback, which is next. It's Sunday.
Sunday.
It's fucking insane that they're doing 2 pay-per-views back-to-back weeks.
Well, it's because no one has to travel. If they were here for this, they're already in Florida.
Yeah.
They're going to be in Florida for a while.
But I don't think we need another pay-per-view so soon after.
No.
After SummerSlam. But they disagree for whatever reason, even though there's no live gate and it's all WWE Network, so there's no pay-per-view buys. They feel the need to run another show. Whatever. Up next, we had Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. I like this match a lot. Randy Orton is doing some of the best work he's done in years. And this match was very unique in one way that I enjoyed immensely, given how prolific finisher and kick-out spam is in today's wrestling. This was a match where neither man hit their finisher.
That's very true.
They
very true.
Wrestled...
Especially with the RKO, the fucking Chaos Emerald of finishers. Just venerated and protected. The only thing stronger than the RKO is the RKO into a second RKO.
Yeah. You can pretty much survive a nuclear blast if you're taking the RKO because it's so protected.
Yeah. But didn't happen.
Did not happen. Claymore did not happen, but they went for them and they did some tricky reversals. And I liked this match because it was very much a back and forth, each guy got their offense in and then the other guy managed to come back. It wasn't heel gets the heat on the babyface for forever, babyface makes a comeback, go into false finishes sort of deal. They really worked it back and forth, and they presented the two as evenly matched, and the finish was kind of a less than decisive finish, so it opens the door for a rematch, which I do think...
Which you can finish.
Yeah, I do think that eventually Randy Orton will beat Drew McIntyre for the title because I'm pretty sure when Edge is ready to come back, that's going to be the match. It's going to be Randy Orton versus Edge for the title, and Edge is probably well, he won the first match. So I don't know if he's going to win that match in the title or not. I think probably will because it's a good feeling there. But yeah, McIntyre wins here by countering. The finishing sequence was really good. Randy whiffs a punt kick, and Drew's going for the Claymore. Randy ducks the Claymore, and Drew takes this really funny looking bump. And then when he gets back up, Randy goes for the RKO, but Drew turns into a backslide and pins Randy Orton. The WWE Championship decided on a backslide. A lot of people bitched and moaned about the finish, but for the reasons I outlined prior, I actually kind of like this finish.
The backslide is like winning with Mill in Magic. It's just it's a low key way to actually win it, and it's surprisingly effective. So it isn't.
Yeah, and when the pin happened, the tagline for this was SummerSlam. You'll never see it coming, and we were on the second to last match of the show, and I'm like, I don't know what that was really in reference to. But as soon as this pin happens, Tom Phillips says the line. You know, the Irish madman was in his ear, telling him to say it. He's like, he never saw it coming, and I'm like, that really. That's what you're using the fucking tagline for? It was not. But at the moment, I was really fucking angry that was what this tagline was about. But no, the tagline would become clearer at the conclusion of this match. The Fiend versus Braun Strowman in a Falls Count Anywhere match for the Universal Championship. This was a Falls Count Anywhere match that ended in the ring. And I suspect it was only a Falls Count Anywhere match because they did not want to have. I mean, they had 3 no DQ matches on the show. They just named them different things. One was straight up called a no disqualification match, Mandy and Sonya. Rollins and Dominic had a street fight, and then this was a Falls Count Anywhere match that they did not really. They brawled into the gorilla position. Yeah. That was pretty much the extent of the Falls Count Anywhere.
No one threw any monitors.
No one threw any monitors.
To see one Braun Strowman misses Bray Wyatt and just fucking decks a monitor right through it.
Yeah, Braun Strowman did not do his favorite spot, which is running. Well, what he can do for running, running real quick into the post. This was a weird match because the Fiend, to the best of my knowledge, is still a heel. Braun Strowman looks like he's turning heel, and then something happened later that involved someone also apparently, it seems, going heel. So it was.
They're in right now.
This was weird match, and not a very good match. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt can lift Strowman, but just barely. So naturally, they did a lot of spots that made that very apparent. And there was a really bad choke slam on the announce table that didn't really break. It buckled a little bit, but didn't break fully. That must have sucked. Towards the finish, Braun Strowman brings out a toolbox. And I go, ugh, because the last time I saw a toolbox, actually, well, yeah, I guess it happened in the Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins and The Fiend. That was bad memories, but even going back further than that, Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton with the screwdriver through the ear.
Twisty.
Gross. And then Batista and Triple H, I guess, had it too, where they ripped out Batista's clearly clip-on nose ring. We were at that show.
This was much tamer.
Yeah, well, he fucking pulls out a box cutter. And I'm like, is he going to fucking stab the dude? What the fuck's he got the box cutter for? And he didn't stab the dude. He he goes into the ring, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, he's probably going to cut off the mask, thinking, that's the source of the Fiend's power or whatever. Wrong again. He decides to just cut up the ring and expose the boards so that the Fiend can Uranagi him.
Regrettably small portion of the mat.
Yeah.
So that, yes, he could Uranagi him onto the mat.
Yeah.
And kind of get the wood.
So Braun Strowman's head bounces, because he's so tall, bounces off the, now doubled up foam.
It's like sleeping on a pillow.
Yeah. And he then takes his sister Abigail onto the boards. And the Fiend is once again the Universal Champion. Never should have taken the belt off of him. And I'm like, that's it? That's the show? But no, it was not it. Because Roman Reigns comes out of nowhere and beats the fucking shit out of both the Fiend and Braun Strowman. Tells Braun Strowman, you're not a fucking monster. I made you. He has giant new veneers that were very distracting.
I did not catch those, but
I'm
sure they were.
And he's beating people up with a chair. And I think Roman either is a heel or will be turning heel in his match with the Fiend at Payback, which I'm sure is happening. I don't think it's been officially announced yet, but that's gonna happen. And I know that he has literally attempted to murder Braun Strowman and still remain babyface. But the key difference here is in the details. Vince McMahon and company control the audience reaction in the Thunderdome. And at the end of this segment, they were piping in boos for Roman Reigns. Just saying.
Fans and the network synthesized. What will this new fusion bring? Find out on the next Dragon Ball Z.
So, they don't turn Roman Reigns when he really would have benefited and gotten over from being a heel, but they turn him after, he beats cancer. Although people were still willing to boo him. When we were at WrestleMania, a lot of people in our section were booing Roman Reigns. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Dude just came back from leukemia. Yeah, that was SummerSlam. Good show. Main event kind of sucked as a match, but the post-match made the segment. Even if Roman is a face, this new aggressive, angry Roman Reigns will at least be cooler than they want me to be John Cena so bad, Roman Reigns.
Guys, I'm the big dog.
Woof.
Buy my merch, I'm the big dog.
Yeah. Speaking of merch, he has a new shirt that says "Wreck everyone and leave."
No, it's not heel at all. It's a cool babyface slogan.
I mean, that is kind of what Stone Cold did. Arrive, raise hell, leave. But it is kind of heelish. So we'll see where it goes. We'll know more tomorrow when SmackDown airs. Although it will be in the past when you see this, because typically these go up on Saturday or Sunday. But pay no mind to temporal inconsistencies. They're not important.
Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey wrestling.
Yeah. So those were your shows. Pretty good weekend of wrestling overall. Best main I'm glad that the main roster pay-per-view, when they dusted off, we don't watch them very often, but I'm glad we got a good one here. And Takeover, weakest Takeover, but there's never been a bad Takeover, and that streak continues. There was plenty to like on that show. And it's unfortunate that Karrion Kross is hurt, but we're going to get what should be a pretty incredible match out of the deal. So we're looking forward to all that, and you can look forward to us next time for, I think, All Out.
All Out. I think
All Out's
I would
next.
want to do coverage of the Super Tuesday match.
Which one's the Super Tuesday match?
That's the Iron Man match.
Oh.
Because it's on September. It's on Super.
Oh, that's right. They're getting bumped because of the NHL playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, Tuesday, NXT airs on Wednesday. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, so we'll bring coverage of that match for sure. But I think the next pay-per-view that we have on the docket will be All Out, which is Labor Day weekend. AEW is gonna try letting live fans in the Daily's place. So we'll see how that goes.
Yep.
We'll
see.
Yeah, and you'll have all our thoughts on that when the time comes. But until then, be well, stay safe, and grapple like it's 1995. Bye-bye.